Hello there from Indianapolis. All set up. Lighting looks good from the hotel room. I'm obviously here for the NFL Combine, which is going to be running throughout the week. As those of you who have been following the channel know, I drove here from Nashville, from Tennessee. So it was a 4-hour drive with a stop in Louisville, Kentucky, right before I crossed the border here into Indiana. Made it without incident to Indianapolis, where the first stop was right here. The first stop was St. Elmo. You're going to hear people talking way too much about this dish, which I don't find particularly appetizing all week. That's the shrimp cocktail that will light you on fire. The exterior of St. Elmo is pictured here. Nice old brick facade right in the middle of downtown Indy. Jerry Jones is going to park his bus in front of St. Elmo, the bus with a big cowboy star on it, more than once, likely this week, once he's in town. I don't think that Jerry Jones is in town yet. We have company meetings tomorrow. The gist of the Combine is going to be getting started on Tuesday, but all the big wigs, they love coming to this place. St. Elmo Steakhouse, famous. It's been there since 1902, and the popular food is this, the shrimp cocktail, which is extremely, extremely hot. It doesn't look appetizing to me. I've had it before. I wasn't all into it. They do have good old fashions with spherical ice cubes, as you can see here. One of these was mine. I forgot which one was mine, but one of these old fashions was mine. Barrows had one of the beers. Barrows is out of dinner. And I don't know who got this right here, but we did have a sizable table at St. Elmo's. So that is the dinner report for tonight. And we will say hello from Indianapolis. This will be, by the way, a 49ers Q&A. I know some of you have begun asking your questions. I'm going to get to them here in just a moment. Just wanted to welcome everybody in, especially those of you on the West Coast. It's 8:37 p.m., so it's prime time for you on Sunday evening. Hopefully the show time works for you. I know those of you in the East Coast, I'm technically on the Eastern time zone now. I moved back an hour or forward an hour. Yeah, I went from Central to Eastern on my drive. Might be a little bit late, but maybe you're laying in bed with the phone checking out YouTube. All right, so let's get to it. 49ers Q&A. I'm sure the questions will be good. Maybe I'll put up some graphics on the screen to help answer them. Thank you, those of you who are here early. I'll try to go back to some of those questions that were asked a little bit earlier on. Oh, all of them are about start time. Surprise, surprise. Everybody wanted to know when we were starting. We'll start with this one right here from Ryan Tang. Are the 49ers interested in any O linemen or D linemen? Yes, they should be interested in both sides of the football along the trenches. I think you always are. Even if you have a good offensive line, you're constantly striving to replenish that side of the football. You're constantly striving to replenish the defensive line. I talked about Adedewar, I don't even know how to pronounce his first name, the defensive lineman out of Northwestern. That is a player that both Matt and I have talked a lot about, a hybrid defensive tackle, defensive end type who checks in around 284 pounds, can add some weight. You know, the trick with the 49ers is they don't own a first or a second round pick. Their first pick is coming way at the end of the third round. So you're going to have to turn to the more hipster prospects, if you will, the ones that not everybody is talking about. Thomas Incoom, another defensive lineman who I can't wait to see test this week in Indianapolis, had 11.5 sacks out of Central Michigan this past year. I could tell on tape that he's got long arms, that he's explosive, but now we need the measurables to see where exactly he is. So 49ers are interested in both sides of that line of scrimmage. That much is for sure. What is a likely top position the 49ers are looking to use their top compensatory pick? Well, this is one of those questions where who's on the board? Who can they trade up for? Are they going to like somebody a lot in the middle of the third round? I think that free agency is going to determine a lot of how the 49ers draft, because you look at the definite spots where the 49ers do need to improve, and I talk about interior defensive line all the time. If you do pick up a nice defensive tackle, then you think about the third round in the draft a little bit differently. Maybe you say, okay, we'll wait till the fifth round to pick up the defensive tackle that we're going to develop. I think that also, since they don't have a single truly premium draft pick, assuming they don't trade up using future years draft capital, I think it's going to be naturally more of a best player available kind of scenario for the 49ers. I just don't think when you're supposed to pick first at number 100 or wherever it is for the 49ers, I don't think that you could sit here right now on February 26th and start saying this is specifically who they're going to try to pick. A lot of people overthink the draft. And, you know, there's an entire industry based on overthinking the draft. Oh, these needs here, these needs that. This guy's going to go here, mock draft 1.0, mock draft 7.0. It's all ridiculous, right? We can talk about prototypes or archetypes, I guess is a better word, for players that could potentially fit into the 49ers system. But the randomness that's going to happen makes all of these prognostications 95% off the mark at least. Mel Kiper's Jr.'s mock draft is not going to be right. Even Dane Brugler does an awesome job for us at The Athletic. His mock draft is not going to be right by the majority of it, right? You can't predict these things. What you can do is study the players, study the teams, what they're going to want, and then you're ready to read and react in the moment. So sitting back here and saying, oh, 49ers are going to pick this position with number 100, just kind of a waste of time, right? So hopefully that answers your question in a situation where I think that unpredictability is going to be the king. Brent asked a few questions before we started. Smitty also asked a question. Who's itching your curiosity? Because we're going to have to say this in the present tense, not past tense. I think Thomas Incoom out of Central Michigan. I want to see him test. I want to see him measure. I want to see how long the arms actually are. See what the burst is off the line of scrimmage. Raphael 562 thinks the 49ers need to draft a tight end, and maybe they do. They've got 10 picks. I mean, one of the sensational feats that the 49ers have accomplished this year in this draft cycle, they only have 2 of their original own draft picks because they've traded all of them away, right, for Christian McCaffrey, for Trey Lance, but they still have 10 total picks coming in. And that's because they played the compensatory game really effectively. They've got a cost-effective draft coming up with that first pick coming out late in the 3rd round. Scrolling down, I think Brent was talking about the tight end in the 5th round in response to Raphael. Yep, he was, because that's where the 49ers did get George Kittle. 49ers, to Brent's point here, the 49ers have a really good scouting department. That's why that scouting department, members of it keep on getting hired for promotions elsewhere. Latest example, Rand Carthon, GM of the Tennessee Titans. He's going to be here at the Combine this weekend. That scouting department has made hay with the 49ers mid-round selections. What part of the Combine do you enjoy the most? Is there an aspect of the Combine you wish fans were more interested in? No, not really. I think the Combine is overplayed, to be honest. I think, you're here because it's like a trade convention for the NFL. It's going to be great to see everybody. But as far as, the fan aspect of it, everybody arguing over 40 times and bench presses and who's meeting with each team, it gets tiresome. Now, the big picture of who meets with each team, when you see the visits and you combine them with the interview intelligence, you could usually start to narrow down who the 49ers might draft. But the random pieces of information and the quotes that come out of the Combine, which are normally really generic, let's be honest, they aren't that exciting. How many players can a team interview at the Combine? I have that coming out in my article, the Combine preview, which is going to be running on The Athletic tomorrow morning. And I wish I could say with certainty how many it is. I believe it's 45. I think it's 45 18-minute max interviews. So they cut down the time to 18 minutes. It used to be 20 plus. Now it's 18 minutes, 45 of those interrogations, they call them, because not officially. They bring those guys up to the hotel room they've repurposed into an interview room, and it is bang, bang. It's quick. I mean, 18 minutes is not a whole lot of time if you really want to try to get to know what a guy is about. So those teams have to be ready to answer, to ask the questions, and the prospects have to be ready to answer them. Love my video, the Ohio River today. Oh, awesome. Well, why don't I play it really fast for those of you who just joined? That gives the room a little time to grow. This is from Louisville, Kentucky, on the drive from Nashville, Tennessee, up here to Indianapolis. Greetings from Louisville, Kentucky. I'm on my way from Nashville, Tennessee, driving to Indianapolis to the NFL Combine. Now, you can see the Ohio River behind me. I'm standing in Kentucky, Kentucky's largest city, in fact, Louisville,
And on the other side of that bridge, on the other side of that river, that's where we have the state of Indiana. So that's where I'm headed. Still maybe an hour, hour and a half north to Indianapolis. So quick stop in Louisville, show you a new city, show you a steamboat looks like up here. Maybe show you the basketball arena where Louisville plays while we talk about the 49ers and what they should be shooting for in an overarching sense this offseason, because we're about to head to the NFL Combine. We're going to get information from John Lynch there. There hasn't been anything really new that's come out regarding the 49ers over the past several weeks. So now that we can set the table for player acquisition with the Combine and with free agency coming up in a couple weeks, what should the 49ers' overarching goal be? Well, I think that they need to be targeting the Kansas City Chiefs. A lot of people are going to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, but I think the 49ers would have beaten the Eagles had they had a healthy quarterback room, and it's obvious they have to keep their quarterbacks healthy entering next season. But I don't think they would have beaten the Chiefs, even with a healthy Brock Purdy or even a healthy Jimmy Garoppolo, because I don't think the 49ers were well equipped enough this year up front to beat Patrick Mahomes. Listen, the way to beat any great QB is a four-man pass rush that's dominant up front. You saw Brady lose to the dominant New York Giants pass rush in the 18-1 season. You've seen so many great quarterbacks be scuttled by the fact that a great pass rush is going to neutralize their time to throw while also allowing 7 men to cover on the back end. And the 49ers pressure rate and their sack rate dropped this past year. Outside of Nick Bosa, it wasn't a great defensive line. And they actually really struggled, in my opinion, up the middle. And I don't think that's just my opinion. I think that their defensive tackles this year, they weren't getting a good pass rush from their defensive tackles. So when you look at this offseason as a whole, I think the 49ers need to go big at the defensive tackle position. I think you might have to do that through free agency. David Onyemata, maybe even Javon Hargrave. Maybe you look at somebody like Dalvin Tomlinson, formerly of the Minnesota Vikings, who's scheduled to be a free agent. But you also have to look at defensive tackles at this combine in this draft to make that work. You also have to work on that defensive end position opposite Nick Bosa, because you're going to have a lot of pending free agents there. Quick break here as I keep on talking. Look behind me. That's the KFC Yum Center. So Kentucky Fried Chicken, based here in Louisville, Kentucky. Yum is actually the brand. I believe they actually also own Taco Bell. So the KFC Yum Center, it's a clever name. That is the basketball arena, though, for the University of Louisville. They play there right on the Ohio River here with the bridge behind me. And then downtown, I mean, not a lot of impressive buildings there, but it still is a nice sunset with downtown. Look at that shot. That's really cinematic. You go past the lamp, sunset, my face, kind of silhouetted out, and then here is the steamboat. Why don't we go ahead and check out the steamboat here on the Ohio River. All right, the next way to beat Patrick Mahomes, you got to have that dominant four-man rush, in my opinion. On top of the four-man rush, you have to play complementary football. And this is a formula I thought the 49ers had down relatively well in 2019. Obviously, we know what happened in the Super Bowl. Mahomes still got them. But between that four-man rush and complementary football, the 49ers had that lead in the fourth quarter. The perfect storm of stuff went wrong. They weren't able to get the job done. Thought they were more ready to get the job done in 2019 than they were this past season. So that defensive line has to get better. And then, of course, complementary football, that's going to require the O-line to also be playing well. The Belle of Louisville, look at this. I'm going to keep on walking here so you guys can see this. We're going to talk about the offensive line here in a second. But the Belle of Louisville, this is a steamboat walking by here right on the dock. That's really nice. And there's like a couple. Oh, okay. This is not the steamboat. This is the office. The steamboat itself is behind me. Let's check out the steamboat. Let's keep on walking. Lighting is good right now. There's nobody around here. The Belle of Louisville. Let me read this for you. It's right behind me. Built in Pittsburgh in 1914, is the oldest continuously operating steamboat in the U.S. Wharf Boat LSS number 10 is the only remaining inland Coast Guard station in the U.S. Both were designated National Historic Landmarks in 1989, the year that I was born. So that is the oldest continuously operating steamboat in the U.S. right behind me, and we're going to continue walking alongside it right now. The freeway, by the way, is right here. They've got this elevated freeway. It probably reminds me of what San Francisco used to have with an Embarcadero freeway right along the water. They got to tear this thing down, move it underground or something, open up the waterfront. I think that would really help it here because it's beautiful. The weather is good. The Belle of Louisville is right behind me. And this is a cool city, a lot of history. We talked about the KFC Yum Center. That's the company that's based here, obviously. Kentucky Fried Chicken. But Louisville, historically, the state, this is the birthplace of Abraham Lincoln. He's not from the city proper, but I drove by his birthplace today. Louisville, though, is the birthplace of Muhammad Ali. It's the site of the Kentucky Derby at Churchill Downs, so a very culturally significant place in the U.S. All right, there's the steamboat, the Belle of Louisville, oldest continuously operating steamboat in the U.S. There's another boat. And now we flip around and we can see that bridge, and maybe a little bit later I give you guys a shot of downtown. Anyway, let's finish this sucker up. I'm talking about the 49ers needing to target the Chiefs this offseason. You do it through that strong four-man front defensively, and you also do it through complementary football. So the offensive line needs to be a focus as well for the 49ers. The Chiefs went from terrible O-line, even against the 49ers, they were a bit overmatched a couple years ago. Year after that, they lost the Super Bowl because it was a total train wreck against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They had the best O-line in football this past year. That was a big reason why the Chiefs were able to get it done against the Philadelphia Eagles. So set your sights on the Chiefs. Don't have the bar too low. The Eagles, I mean, they didn't win the Super Bowl. They weren't the best team in football. It was the Chiefs who the 49ers have to surpass this offseason. All right. Well, as luck would have it, I kept on driving around and I stumbled into an even cooler view. Found a statue of Abraham Lincoln that I'll show you in just a little bit. But right here between two bridges in Louisville and a better sunset view of downtown is behind me. And here's that Abraham Lincoln statue. A little amphitheater set up. I'm going to continue on my way to the NFL Combine. Hello from Kentucky. Next stop, across the river, Indiana. Everybody take care.
All right, so that was Louisville. Obviously, I'm in Indianapolis right now. Sunset was good. Give me a little break from talking there. There's the Louisville Slugger Field, named after the baseball bats. Play some triple, I think they're called the Bats, the Louisville Bats, the AAA team. Main Street, made a right turn here. There's the KFC Yum Arena. And this was the drive. This was the drive from the state of Kentucky across the bridge to Indiana, where I am right now. So hopefully everybody has enjoyed the documentation of the day of travels. And now we can say hello from Indianapolis. We've crossed the bridge. We've been to St. Elmo. It was a 4+ hour drive. Good weather, everything, though. It was fine. And we can now get back to our 49ers Q&A. Saw some people talk about Jimmy Garoppolo in the comment section as that video was playing. The guy by the river looks just like David Lombardi. That's crazy. I know, it was nuts. That's why I had to put him on the show. I was like, it kind of freaked me out. I'm looking at the side-by-side here, and because I had both of the images on the screen at the same time. And, oh, look, that's me. That's me on the river by Louisville. Okay, good stuff. Here, let's now we have a fried chicken debate going on in the comment section. Let's get back to football talk here about the 49ers before the NFL Combine. Live from Indianapolis. Harold says Trey Lance has the jump start this season. Trey is QB1 for now. It's all up to Trey. It's his job to lose or keep. Purdy's not going to be ready at the beginning of the season. Probably not. We don't know for sure. I don't think anybody knows. It's okay to say we don't know until Purdy actually goes under the knife. But it is true that Trey Lance has the job this offseason. He has the biggest chance to improve. People who are writing off Trey Lance, they're doing so way too prematurely. We haven't seen enough of him. We need to see a chance for him to attain mechanical consistency. That's the key to accuracy. So far, he hasn't had it because he's been hurt most of the time. So sit back, watch what happens this offseason. We can have the Brock Purdy versus Trey Lance discussion when they're actually both healthy. But what's important for the 49ers right now is improvement on all fronts. From Lance mechanically and from Brock Purdy from a health perspective. He's got to undergo surgery. UCL has to get better, and then Purdy's got football stuff to improve as well. He's got to hit that first read a little bit better. That's something that Greg Cosell's been talking about a lot lately. Purdy, for some reason, was really starting to skip out on those first reads that Kyle Shanahan intently wants quarterbacks to make. That was especially in the playoffs. Purdy was making life a little bit harder on himself than it should have been. Happened against the Raiders in the regular season too. The brilliant George Kittle touchdown throw, that actually was a play where Juwan Jennings was a much easier first read. Shanahan's going to want you to let it rip on the first read, and that's something, letting it rip quick on that first read, that's something that Brock Purdy has to get better at. Struggled against Philadelphia. He got hurt on the play where didn't get the ball out on time to Brandon Ayuk. So both of these quarterbacks of the 49ers currently have under contract for 2023. They're young. They're learning. They have differing amounts of NFL experience and college experience. Purdy has a lot more of both, but Trey Lance is going to have a chance to start playing some catch-up as far as getting acclimated to the NFL level this offseason. That brings me to this. Trey Lance resumed throwing this weekend. That was a big milestone for the 49ers. In case you didn't hear my news report from Nashville yesterday, Trey Lance has resumed throwing. We're going to hear more from John Lynch on the rest of his timeline, but he's running, he's throwing, he's looking for receivers in the Bay Area because most of the 49ers have skipped town this offseason, and it's going to be a big few months for Trey Lance. All right, let's go back to the questions. Hopefully the fried chicken debate is over, and the actual questions are coming in with the 49ers. Does Purdy have a hard time seeing this first read due to his size in the pocket? It's very possible. Probably not a terrible theory, right? Brock Purdy is a QB who is below average height. He doesn't like to step up in the pocket. He likes to bail the pocket. That's been one of the bigger frustrations for the 49ers, but there is a reason why he was picked lower in the draft, and I think the main reason is that he's short. He's not your 6'2", 6'3" gunslinger. I think if Purdy were 6'3", he would have been a first-round pick based on how he played in Iowa. But the fact that he's about 6 foot flat, it's a big 3 inches right there. And I think that's why he was picked a little bit lower on. That's why he did slip under the radar. So the 49ers have to get Purdy more comfortable within the pocket, as possible as that might be, right? Because the height is an issue, especially with tall defensive linemen in front of him. No, there is zero good argument for trading Bosa instead of extending him. Bosa's the best defensive player in football. Talk about taking steps back. If you trade Nick Bosa, you take a lot of steps back. He is one of the straws that stirs the drink of the 49ers defense. Jawan Taylor, is he a viable replacement for Mike McGlinchey? Jawan Taylor still needs a lot of development. Still a raw tackle, in my opinion. So I would love to see, if the 49ers move on from McGlinchey and go to veteran, I'd love to see more polish, somebody like Caleb McGarry. But yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how the dominoes fall in this situation. Harold thinks that Bosa is a 49er for life. Can Drake Jackson make the jump? Well, that's the big question for the 49ers. If he does make that second-year jump, and Chris Kasarik has proven really adept at developing edge rushers, that jump happens from Drake Jackson, I think the 49ers are in business next year along those edges. They need more from defensive tackle, but I think that's why you go out and sign a premier defensive tackle and really work on that position, because it makes the job of Nick Bosa and of Drake Jackson easier. It's all connected along that defensive line. I don't think you need to convince Luan to play right tackle. I don't think he wants to. I think it's really unlikely. And I don't think that you go out and beg him. I think you say, hey, we've got the minimum here for you. Come and prove that you want to play, that you can stay healthy, compete. If you like the guys on the team, here's your opportunity. But I don't think you have to go out there pursuing Taylor Lewan, who has missed so many games over the past 3 years and has very, very adamantly said that he would prefer to stay at left tackle than right tackle. Jake Haener will be attending the NFL Combine. Yes. He has been invited, at least one of the 319 players invited. So I would expect Jake Haener to be here at the NFL Combine. Looking forward to meeting him. Actually, I've never met Jake Haener in person. The answer for bookend the Bosa is a combination of a vet and free agency and Drake Jackson's development. I agree. So what? Justin Houston could be the answer. Marcus Davenport coming off a bad year. The 49ers really liked him. And what was it, 2018 coming out of the draft? That could be the answer. It's definitely a job that I think falls onto more than one set of shoulders. You've got to be strength in numbers along that defensive line. To open up cap space, can they restructure Trent Williams? They've already minorly restructured him. Suppose you could do a little bit more. If you think he's a foundational player, is going to be around for a while, sure, why not? You're not losing anything by restructuring him. The problem comes when you restructure a guy and then he's not on the team and you're still paying the dead cap bill. But if he's, I mean, like Armstead, it didn't hurt to restructure him last year. You're paying him a lot this year. You're going to pay him at some point anyway. If he's going to be on the team anyway this year, it doesn't hurt you to restructure him and shuffle that cap room around. So if you believe in Trent Williams as a long-term foundational piece, which I think the 49ers do, sure, restructure him. I think that Christian McCaffrey is the easiest candidate for that this year because he's obviously a foundational piece and he doesn't have a restructure under his belt yet. So his contract is the cleanest to execute for the restructure so far. The answer is to spend the money cloning Bosa. 20 years from now, it'll pay dividends. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on the way that you look at things, any cloning money wouldn't count against the salary cap. So the 49ers might as well use their money, at least the cap money, they might as well use it toward players. That could be a separate expense. Bud Dupree, the man who injured Jimmy Garoppolo, the torn thumb ligament in, what was it, week 15, December 23rd, 2021 at Tennessee. That was Bud Dupree on a sack of Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, he's done good stuff in his career. So, again, the bookend for Nick Bosa is not a one-man job. So maybe he could be part of that committee. I wonder if the 49ers can find enough trade capital to trade for Brian Burns. Played under Steve Wilkes in Carolina. Now, that would be more of a blue chip edge rushing piece. That would be something. But I really think that even if they do get Burns, they have to figure out that interior. That was supposed to be where Javon Kinlaw excelled. Kinlaw's still under contract. This is a good free agent class for defensive tackles and a good draft class for defensive tackles as well. Any defensive end who could bookend to Bosa from the draft. Well, here's my thing about that. There always is somebody, but usually, especially at the like these premium positions like edge, you got to get him quickly in the draft. I'm talking first round, right? Even Drake Jackson last year won the second round, but they're talking about him as a first round talent. 49ers, that was 61 overall for Drake Jackson. 49ers don't have that pick this year. They don't pick until 100. So I don't think you could count on a ready-made bookend for the draft unless you're trading up aggressively with next year's picks. And I don't think the 49ers are going to do that. I don't know about the 49ers trading for Joey Bosa. It's going to be really tough. Do we know if Rand Carthon was the key evaluator behind the 49ers' late-round draft successes? He's one of them. This was a by-committee kind of approach. I think Rand has talked a lot about the Elijah Mitchell draft and how the 49ers melded analytics with film study. I mean, Carthon was a key player in there. Adam Peters is a key player in there. The 49ers have a lot of, I think, symbiosis in that front office. John Lynch is running a good, healthy ship there. So I don't think that we'll ever know the exact division of credit and labor, but just know that that room has worked really well together for the 49ers to make those mid-round picks work. A very high success rate in that fifth round, especially. Is it true that the 49ers would free up an additional $13.4 million in cap space when they extend Nick Bosa? No, that's a bit of an exaggeration. I think that his fifth-year option hits like 17 or 18 million. If they were to free up 13.4 million in cap space, that would make his this year's hit something like 4 or 5 million. I don't think they could get it that low. I think you probably free up maybe 7 million. But if he's going to get a mega deal, some of that money has to hit the cap this year. You can't just push it all into future years because you're probably going to give him a big signing bonus. And at least part of that signing bonus is going to be amortized over 2023. So I think that is cap, C-A-P, cap. Remember that video? Got to do another factor cap video. Luke Walsh is happy that Adam Peters is still on board. Well, the 49ers are also still happy. You know, Adam Peters is a Cupertino native. I interviewed him at the Combine here in Indy back in 2017. Family in the Bay Area. I think that he wants to stay in the Bay Area. John Lynch, he's going to stay on indefinitely, probably until the 49ers win a title, at least, because he's a competitive guy. So Peters right now happy in that assistant GM role behind John Lynch. Sorry if you've talked about this a bit, but what is the motivation for restructuring Armstead, Warner, and covering McCaffrey's salary as a signing bonus? Well, I'll show you. Why don't we get my salary cap sheet out? This is last year's salary cap. You got to get this year's salary cap. 49ers 2023 salary cap. Pop it open on the screen. There you go. Maybe have my face there in the corner. So here's the 49ers cap room. This is their spending money for this season. It's currently at $7.39 million. Is that nothing? No. But would you potentially like a little bit more? Yes. So how do you make more cap room? Well, by salary cap law in the NFL, any money that's a signing bonus is spread out for cap purposes over the length of a player's contract. So say that Christian McCaffrey is a $12 million cap hit. That's coming all from base salary. Trust me on this. I'm not going to show you his contract right now, but since it's all coming from base salary, if you convert his base, it counts against this year's cap. If you convert a significant amount of Christian McCaffrey's base salary to signing bonus, then you could stretch it out over the remaining years of his deal, maybe even more if you add some dummy years to the restructured contract. That means that you could theoretically lower Christian McCaffrey's hit to something like $7 million instead of $12 million. So if it's only 7 instead of 12, I'm going to change it here. Look what it does to your total space. Boom. All of a sudden you go from 7.39 million to 12.39 million. All of a sudden you have a lot more room to sign potential star players. All right, I'm going to undo that. McCaffrey back to 12 million. So that's what converting salary to signing bonus does. It opens up space. The motivation for restructuring Armstead and maybe Warner would be a good one because he hasn't been restructured yet. I think you probably get that down to 12 or 13 million. Same thing, right? Warner down to 12 million. Oops, I just put that wrong way. I put 23 million. Put Warner at 12. All of a sudden you have 14 million in room. You just have to be willing to give him a bigger check right now. Armstead, they already restructured last year, so you could see here that his cap hits 24 million this year. Can you restructure again? Yes, but you've already got, a big hit coming this year because of the hit last year. If you want to keep the books slightly balanced, then you probably don't do Armstead. But I mean, it is possible. Anywhere that there's base salary that can be converted to signing bonus, you can save money now for the future. Yes, we've been live this whole time, Brent. You asked questions at the start. Where did you go? We've been live for 34 minutes to answer your question. No, you can't go over the cap. It's a hard cap in the NFL. There is no, I don't know what the NFL will do if you went over it. They probably would suspend you from playing or something, but it's a hard cap. You cannot go over. You have to figure out a way to get under it. There's no luxury tax exception in the NFL. That's crazy. The video never started. You had to refresh the page. Well, hopefully in the future, if that happens to people, listen to Brent, refresh your page. I don't know what else to say. It seems like a YouTube problem. That becomes a me problem because I want people to watch the show. 49ers can indeed re-sign Emmanuel Mosley. He should be cheaper due to the injury, but we'll see how much cheaper. See if they can get him on an injury flyer. My plans in Indy, well, we ate a little bit. It was St. Elmo today. The first stop was St. Elmo. covering the 49ers. Trey Lance began throwing back in the Bay Area this weekend. John Lynch is expected to speak on Tuesday. If that changes, I will update you, but I'm expecting Tuesday. And I'm planning to do some 49ers Q&As. Have a big day of company meetings tomorrow for The Athletic. But, we're here. We're here to do football, maybe a little bit of drinking, some socializing, which is professionally referred to as networking. I'm happy with the setup here in the hotel room. I think the lighting is decent. I think that the mic right here is doing well. You can see the bottom of the mic right at the bottom of the screen, a little sliver there. I think we got good sound in this room. Give me a thumbs up if you like the sound. We'll make sure I fix any lighting tweaks that I notice on this video for our more serious videos over the course of the week. But I just wanted to sit back before I went to bed. It's already 12:10, so I'm going to go to bed here pretty soon. Got to be up early tomorrow. I wanted to give you guys the good Q&A to begin the week. By the way, those of you just joining, here are the shrimp cocktails from St. Elmo's. St. Elmo, it doesn't have the apostrophe S. Way too spicy. I don't really enjoy them, but I had a great lobster bisque. I actually had shrimp that was stuffed with crab. Interesting dish. I ate well tonight. I was happy about it. There it is, St. Elmo Steakhouse. And here is The Athletic. We've got our State of the 49ers series. The QB position. This has been a big piece that everybody's talking about here past few weeks. Here's the quarterback performance for the 49ers recently. We went through every single position on the roster. State of the 49ers running back, receiver, tight end, O-line, D-line. You can check it all out on my landing page at The Athletic. There you go. David Lombardi, staff writer. For the beard days, it's just stubble now. I did a little off-season shave. Maybe the beard comes back. I had the beard going last year at the Combine. I remember that. I was talking to people about it here. So every off-season is different, isn't it? Cool. All right, back to the questions. Looks like a lot of them are pouring in. Any news on Jason Poe? Is he still a project? He's still a project. They re-signed him to a reserve future deal, which means they're keeping Jason Poe around for another season, which means they're still working with Jason Poe, who was on the practice squad last year. Derek, thank you. Do I feel the NFL wants offense? If so, do you think they should focus on offense in the offseason? I feel like no matter what, Bosa will be held or there'll be a yucky, tacky PI in the playoffs. You can't, if the NFL wants offense, which they obviously do for marketing purposes, you can't go down and play their game, though. You still have to shut down the opposing offenses that teams try to throw out there. So the edge rushing position is a good way to try to shut it down. Bosa is going to do his best to avoid some of those personal foul penalties. But the great neutralizer, and I just talked about this earlier in the show when I played the Louisville clip, the great neutralizer for a great QB, and the 49ers should be gearing up to beat Patrick Mahomes, is a strong four-man pass rush. So no, Bosa, you got to double down on Bosa. That is a really, really important position. A good balanced defense is really important, but I think that strong four-man pass rush is really important to upsetting other offenses. And yes, obviously the NFL wants offense. They're talking about illegalizing the Eagles QB sneak formation because they want entertainment, not just offense. They want entertainment. Nick Zakel, we can't say bust. I mean, it's been one season. The guy was super raw. Grew up near here in Cleveland, but, super raw coming out of college at Fordham. They think Zakel's really smart. They're developing him, and we'll see how it goes. That's all we can say right now. And we'll see what they do with Jake Brendel at that center position. We're going to go for 45 minutes tonight. It's going to be the final verdict, so about 7 more minutes. Yeah, I got it. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, you're saying a lot of holding. But despite the holding, Bosa had 18.5 sacks, and Bosa was a clear driver of a ton of 49ers success. Their defense generated points last year too. So if you start, talking about trading Bosa, giving up on defense, well, you're giving up efficiency from the defense. Listen, balance wins Super Bowls. The Chiefs have been a balanced team. That defense might not be ranked all too high, but in the playoffs, they find a way to deliver defensively at an adequate level to make sure that there's enough balance there. They had, obviously, the Hurts fumble recovery for a touchdown, a couple big stops when they needed them in that football game. You can't just have a one-sided team and expect to win it all. It all. Barrows is here. Both of us from the Athletic are here. I haven't seen anybody else yet from the 49ers side. I'm sure there will be. But I'm here early, and that's why we're doing the show right now from Indianapolis. Jimmy Ward is tough to know. He took less money from the 49ers last time than the Raiders when he was a free agent. I think that was 2020. I don't know if he's going to get lowballed because of his age, because he's still playing good football and has been relatively durable lately. I know he had a couple injuries this last year, but he nothing like early in his career when it was all fractures. We'll see. I think the Ward thing is interesting because they want him as a nickel back, at least as of now, assuming Deshaun Gibson comes back. I think the 49ers are still trying to figure out, actually how their safety position is going to work. But theoretically, they want him as a nickel. That's a lower price point than safety. Ward wants to play safety. Most of his tape prior to this season is at safety. He wants one more big contract because he's getting up there in age, past age 30, right? So when I talk about the 49ers having plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E, plan F, it's true. Because depending on how some stuff turns out, Deshaun Gibson retiring or not, you make your plans elsewhere. And that's where the Ward situation stands right now. We'll know a lot more here in a few weeks, that's for sure. Do the 49ers want Patrick Mahomes? Well, I think anybody would want Patrick Mahomes. He's the best quarterback in football. Is Eisen going to run the 40 again? I guess he does every year. Some kind of charity thing, right? It's not going to be fast, I know that. Tougher schedule for the 49ers. Always is if you win the division, right? Because you play the other division winners. Yeah, it's going to be a challenge. Anytime you play a harder team, it's going to be a challenge for the quarterback. That's for sure. What do you mean by this? Will teams treat the combine any differently this year due to the Purdy effect? You mean because Purdy was drafted so late, they're going to be looking at different things? They've been looking at S2 testing for a while. That's what Matt Barrows wrote about not too long ago. So I think that, maybe you see an even greater focus on stuff like that. But Purdy worked because the 49ers had that system really set up for him to have immediate success. That's what teams should emulate. Emulate the system and then, go and draft players that fit your system. That's the 49ers formula. It's not that complicated. Build a clearly defined system, fit that system with the players who are going to succeed in it. I think that's the first thing that John and Kyle Shanahan agreed to do back in 2017 when they took this job. They agreed to have a clearly defined system, clearly defined expectations from each position group, and that's how they approached building the 49ers. 197 thinks Purdy is the next Breeze. All right, 2 more minutes. 2-minute warning here. 2-minute warning. We did not stop the clock, and then I go get some rest. It's already 12:18. So sub to the channel because I put in extra time, even after dinner, after some cocktails for you guys. Put in extra time here on the channel. Mike jumps in. Let Purdy be Purdy, not Breeze or anyone else. The S2 cognition testing had Purdy and Breeze, compared to each other. Let's put it that way. You don't want me to leave the 49ers? Well, I'm not technically with the 49ers. I cover the 49ers. But I'm doing my best to cover them. I hope that you enjoy it. Order your final drinks. It's last call. 1 minute to go. 1 minute to go on this Sunday evening. Brian, looking further into the 2023 season, if the 49ers were to face the Eagles in the NFC Championship, would the Eagles be weaker than last season due to Jalen Hurts' huge contract extension? Yeah, the Eagles already have some big-time free agents that I don't think they're going to be able to bring back. If they don't bring back Javon Hargrave, for example, that defense gets a lot worse. I think it's going to be tough for the Eagles to be as good roster-wide as they were this past season. Thank you. Appreciate you, Razor. And I will be leaving here in a few seconds to give Good coverage of the NFL Combine. Appreciate everybody. Thank you. It's been a good night in Indianapolis. Check out the video from Louisville on my drive up. There's going to be a whole lot more content coming throughout the course of this week. This is the Hello from Indianapolis NFL Combine show. We're finally going to have some fresh content to talk about too as this week progresses. Everybody like the video, sub to the channel. I appreciate you all for joining. We will talk to you all very, very soon here from Indianapolis. Everybody take care.